Hey, kia ora koutou whānau. Welcome back to another edition of Big Hairy News. Kia ora, Chewy.
Kia ora, Pat. What's cracking?
Well, what's cracking is I'm available to be seen tonight. So even though you still are the looks of the show, I'm back, and not just me, other members of the whānau.
No.
We're all back. We're all.
Well, thank goodness you've returned from the void.
Remove the dog, because when the dog lies like this, it's like she's got a broken neck. It's not as appropriate, I think. I have not touched it. It is absolutely fine. Hey team, how are you all doing tonight? Hope you're doing good. Lovely to be back with you. Look, I normally kind of talk about patrons and stuff as we move through, but let me say straight away, a huge thanks to all of our patrons. So if you are one of our patrons, you already know this because you might have seen the post, but the reason we're back and operating well is I needed to buy a new piece of equipment, and the new piece of equipment right there, CamLink Pro, was paid for by our patrons. And so $550. And as you can see, Chewy, his CamLink Pro is not going well at all. So I guess the next level of fundraising is about to start. No, in all seriousness, thank you very much to our patrons. If you're interested in being a part of it, hey, welcome back, Chewy. We just think your timing was perfect, wasn't it? Almost like we'd set it up to try and now ask for patrons. No, just kidding. But genuinely, thanks to you for being involved with it. And if you are, oh gosh, where's my page gone? I had a page set up. Oh, there they are, with all of our new patrons. So can I say a big thanks to now? If this is your real name, you should be buying a lotto ticket every single week. And if it's a fake name, it's great. But if it's your real name, Dave McLucky. It's like Dave McLucky. What a great name. Thank you, David. Robert Forster, Mike Hodgkinson, Jeremy Naylor, and Carol, who all became patrons this week. Also to Lurchy, and to Sandy, and to Free Soul, and to Kathy Hunt, who all have been patrons for a while, and they've chosen to increase their patronage through the thing. I don't think I've forgotten anybody, because I try and check that every Monday to make sure we're all on top of things. So thank you all guys very much. It's lovely to be with you, and we genuinely really appreciate it. And you know what? I wasn't going to do this actually, because I'm not the kind of person who kind of goes, this is not a telethon. But the people who have decided to go up a level, and in fact, I think Free Soul went up from like 5 to 50 or something like that. It was a big jump. So I think it's very generous, Free Soul, or 5 to 35 or whatever it was. It was a big jump. Thank you very much. We're probably pretty close to, if everyone did like an increment of $5, there's probably a full-time salary in it. That's how close we are to it. It's a really interesting and yeah. And I'm not saying that, look, the most important thing for us when it comes to our patrons is that you can afford it and it can be consistent. Like it's less helpful for someone to go, hey, here's a chunk of money, and then not be there 6 months later, because we are reliant a little bit on it. Maybe in 6 months' time we haven't got the money for the equipment that breaks down. So, we're growing and we're getting there, and thank you so much. Chewy, I thought I should mention the Emmys were today, and there was lots going on. The regulars typically won. The Today Show, Jon Stewart, the Daily Show, got it there. The Daily Show got back up and won one again, but not above John Oliver. John Oliver took out 2 in different categories, but the big one that was interesting was Baby Reindeer. Richard Gadd got himself 3 Emmys. Got it for Best Actor, writing, and overall show for like a mini series, short run, or whatever they call that one. Which is pretty amazing.
Deserved. Like, I can't think of something that I've watched that has affected me to the degree that has. Yeah. While I'm getting a word in, I think your studio speakers might be on.
I don't think they are, because I don't think they can be anymore.
I thought I heard a little bit of feedback whenever
the way the system's set up now is if the mic's on the speakers. I've turned them off anyway, but the speakers can't be on.
Cool.
I just turned my mic down a little bit in case it was a bit of something in the headphone. But there you go. Yeah, so I didn't watch the Emmys, but really interesting to hear the ones that got the awards. Well done, Richard Gadd, and to everybody else. And it's really interesting to watch the melee between the person who's come out as the real stalker and how she went on Piers Morgan and absolutely just lied her way through it, and all the internet sleuths proved her lies to be what they were. Why you would want to come out and just identify yourself like that, I don't know. But anyway,
because you're a raging narcissist and you make really poor decisions.
I have got a whole bunch of little things. I was thinking about throwing them out at the start of the show, but maybe I'll intersperse them, like little 1 or 2 minute stories, and they're all real interesting, and they've all come up from over the weekend. How about we start with this one? See this? Mata Mata RSA defends actions of guest who arrived at quiz night sporting blackface. A Waikato RSA is under fire after a community member turned up to a quiz night at its club rooms in blackface. Then the club told people who objected, "It's Yuma." I assume that's how they'd say it. It's Yuma.
This is like a masterclass in how not to react to doing something wrong. This is just, they've done everything wrong.
Obviously, the board members, the president, the mayor, or something then got involved, and today they have sorried for blackface costume at Black and White Quiz Night. The Royal New Zealand Return Service Association has apologised for the blackface costume worn at RSA function in Mata Mata on Saturday. An RSA spokesperson from its national office, so Mata Mata went, "It's Yuma." The national office went, yeah, guys, can we have a chat about this? The national office told staff it was sorry for the issue. We are aware of the issue surrounding a costume worn to a Mata Mata RSA recent black and white themed function, they said. The RSA prides itself on being a warm and welcoming place in the community, and we apologise unreservedly for any offence that has been caused. I was thinking about that. I wonder, Peter, I blame the years of lead petrol. If someone turned up, it's a country location, love Mata Mata. Apparently this lovely young lady used to sell fish and chips there, Chewy. Can't think of her name, but someone that's gone on to doing some quite good things. What would you do? What would you do if you were the guy at the front door and that turned up? You'd just be like, sorry, how do you, wokester in rural New Zealand, you're not going to let me in now. It's interesting to see how it should be handled.
So the RSA has a bit of a problem in that we haven't had enough wars, and so we don't have a lot of veterans. But they need to keep people coming through the doors, and it is my suggestion that this shit doesn't help. So with the amount of RSAs that have been closing around the corners, I would suggest that the Mata Mata RSA look at its numbers and look at how their demographics have changed. And maybe there's some brown faces that have served that don't want to go into the Mata Mata RSA or be associated with them in any way because of stupid bullshit like this.
Yeah.
This sounds like an old white dinosaurs club that doesn't give a fuck about what anybody says. So hopefully this is a reality check for them.
I do want to say, you did hear it here first, chat. That was Chewy calling for more wars. You said we haven't had enough, so I'm assuming therefore.
Just to keep the RSAs ticking through, I think it's a wise choice that we need to start picking more fights. Obviously, on smaller, less prepared countries. So we might need to put our heads together about that one.
Like there are any compared to New Zealand in the world anywhere. Okay, let me give you another little quick one. This is kind of hilarious. Now, I actually had this last Thursday and I forgot about it. So many of you may have seen this. I'm not even going to introduce it. I'll just play you part of this conversation with JD Vance on Fox News and hear his rationale for why people wouldn't want to support Taylor Swift.
Endorsement of Harris and Waltz right after. She has 283 million followers on Instagram, and I'm sure that someone brought to your attention that she signed it "childless cat lady." This is a phrase that you are going to hear in your dreams and your nightmares probably for many years to come. How do you speak to women voters who obviously they care about what she thinks?
Of course. Well, look, we admire Taylor Swift's music, but I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests
Should I play it again?
music. But I don't think most Americans, whether they like her music or fans of hers or not, are going to be influenced by a billionaire celebrity who I think is fundamentally disconnected from the interests and the problems of most Americans. Look, when grocery prices go up by 20%.
Buddy.
It's
hey, buddy.
I mean, honestly, what they're saying, yep, I don't necessarily agree with them, but, you know, if you're going to go down that path of billionaire celebrities aren't going to be the people you listen to, maybe what he's saying is don't vote Trump. That's all I'm hearing anyway.
I have to find the image. Where is it?
Oh, look, I'm going to play another one then. These are all little short clips. All right, here's one more for you. And this is, we're not featuring any interviews from Q&A this weekend, but we do have to feature one thing that was going around the Twitterverse this weekend. It's straight from Q&A to you.
We've had many messages from you in recent weeks and months about politicians who are prepared to be interviewed on Q&A. It's now more than a year since Christopher Luxon was last on this show. He's actually never been interviewed on Q&A in his capacity as Prime Minister. We've requested him many times. We've asked his team what dates would suit. We've tried to work in with what is obviously and understandably a busy schedule, but so far he hasn't appeared. Just for the sake of context, we went through our records and the last national prime ministers, Sir Bill English and Sir John Key, were interviewed on Q&A more than 4 times a year on average. Wow. During her time as Prime Minister, Dame Jacinda Ardern was interviewed on Q&A twice a year. We think there's democratic value in putting questions to politicians of all stripes, and we hope the Prime Minister agrees to be interviewed soon. We've had many...
There you go. So someone's hiding from Captain Jack Journalist. Doesn't want to go near him. Won't go on. I mean, like, it sounds silly us comparing ourselves to Q&A, but I've emailed him, Nicola, Seymour, numerous times, and now I don't even hear back. Don't even get a response email. So
yeah.
It's
not just Q&A either.
Of Q&A. Sorry, Chewy, you're going to interject or something.
Just add him to add Q&A to the list.
I can't hear you. Your mic doesn't seem to be working. If you can hear me, that's lovely, but I don't seem to be able to hear you.
I can hear you.
You talk about that, talk to me, and see if you can figure that out. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to have a look at the first story for the night. Can't hear Chewy and Pat now, the thing is saying. I can hear both, says someone. We can hear Chewy. Oh, this is going to be a fun night.
Oh,
we can hear Chewy. I can't hear Chewy. Turn your speakers on, Pat. We can hear you both. Okay, so we've got people who say we can hear Chewy, we can hear Pat.
Okay.
We can hear you both.
That's weird.
Not quite sure how that works. Bubba can hear us both. Talk to me, Chewy.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me at all?
I've got you again. I know what's happening.
I hear that feedback as well because I can hear me repeating.
Okay. I know what the problem is. You go share your thing and I will fix it.
Okay. JD Vance talking about a billionaire disconnected with reality. He was talking about Trump and his gold toilet house, right?
I think so.
Is he talking about that guy?
Yeah, I think so.
This guy?
Yeah.
Can't tie a tie, lives in a gold doll's house? That one.
That one. That's the guy.
If I'm picking between him and Taylor, I know who I'm picking.
I'd have to pick him because if I didn't pick him, then it's all over Red Rover. With my daughters, they'd disown me. Now I'm going to suggest to you that possibly your echo is no longer there.
No, it's not. Yay,
yeah.
fixed.
I know what's happened.
Yeah.
No, I'm just checking it on this other end. Yep, guys, this whole thing from Thursday night has put some squirrels amongst the pigeons. Is that the saying? I don't think that's a saying, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah, I fixed it. The system is changing its settings regularly, but I've now fixed it. And do you know why I fixed it now, Chewy? Because we never did a sound check that we do every single night before the show. Because if we had done one, I would have seen it. Okay, let's look at our favorite little pothole filler, little Simeon Brown, who is going to join us today to talk to us about their plan to kill more New Zealanders. Now, not my words, not being dramatic, not my words.
Yet more pressure is being put on the government to reconsider its approach to reversing speed limit reductions imposed under the previous government. An open letter from global road safety experts is calling on Christopher Luxon and Simeon.
Can I just say, the open letter though has certainly become the attack du jour of the government, hasn't it? We've had all sorts of open letters from churches. We've had open letters from these guys. We had an open letter from Māori health officials. It does seem to be the way things are going. It's the it's the delivery of message du jour.
In Brown to give changes a second thought to avoid, quote, tragic consequences. Here's senior political reporter Benedict Collins.
For years we've heard, the faster you go, the bigger the mess. Now the government's been told its move to raise speed limits is an accident waiting to happen.
Yep.
People will die without a shadow of a doubt if you implement this.
Well, I mean,
so just so we're clear, I wasn't being overly dramatic. Not my words. Not my words.
Implement this.
Well, I mean, I don't agree with him.
This is madness.
The Transport Ministry's former chief.
The pothole filler doesn't agree with the guy who I think is the scientist. Does that ring true for a National Party government, maybe?
Chief Science Advisor is one of almost 100 experts from all over the world to have signed the letter urging the government not to lift speed limits.
Let's just think about this. 100 experts from all over the world or Simeon Brown. 100 experts from all over the world, experts or Simeon Brown. Who are we going with, Chewy?
Well, let's recount that Simeon Brown ran for, I think, 3 weeks, a campaign to take us all the way to election 6 months out of having a pothole of the week on his social media platform. It ran for 3 weeks and there wasn't a single pothole that was posted that was the responsibility of a national agency like the NZTA. They were all regional council roads. He still posted them. He's a smart cookie. Someone needs to ruffle his hair and tell him he's doing a good job.
Simeon Brown just said, I don't agree with him. Unfortunately, Simeon, it's not him. It's him, her, her, times 10. 100 experts from around the world or Simeon Brown.
Here at home, dozens have signed, including public health academics, doctors, surgeons, and civil engineers.
All the experts are saying this is a really bad idea. It's inconsistent with what's happening in the rest.
Just pausing it. Sorry to go one more time. So Canterbury University professor or Simeon Brown. Canterbury University professor and 99 other experts from around the world or Simeon Brown. Chewy, if you had to go and have an operation, let's say your gallbladder needed to be removed, 100 medical experts from around the world or Simeon Brown. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? I mean, I know my tongue's slightly in my cheek, but the actual point that is being made here.
I think I might listen to Simeon Brown's opinion if it was on the best flavor of Chupa Chup. But outside of that, I think it's probably a pretty short list.
Well, what about this? We could ask Simeon Brown, when is the appropriate time to go out of short pants into long pants? He might know that because he's done that recently as well. Okay, let's keep going, shall we?
To the world, it's against all science and evidence please don't implement it. It's a bad policy.
We campaigned on reversing Labour's blanket speed limit reductions, and we're going to do that.
I mean, they're warning that New Zealanders are going to die if you do this, though, right?
Well, ultimately, what we know is around.
Well, ultimately, people die. I mean, you know, if they do die, they'll be the ones that we don't vote for us anyway. Ultimately, people just have to die of something. So, you know,
Is around schools, the highest risk times are during when children are being dropped off and being picked up. That's why we're going to have we're going to ensure that all schools have a slower speed limit during those high risk times.
But you're not just making changes around school, right? You're making lots of changes to roads all around our inner cities where there's lots of pedestrians. I mean, they're saying you're going to kill people.
It's too simplistic to say that speed is the only factor to be focused on.
Remember that for years and years and years and years and years and years and years, there was like a two World Automobile Association advert. The first word was speed. The second word, I'm trying to think what it was, Joe. It began with K. Speed. Kinetic cakes.
Force.
Kinetic. It was speed kills was the message that we've had for the past 30
sorry,
years.
I'm with you now.
Speed kills.
Speed
Speed kills. But apparently,
I was limited to 30 Ks, but I've caught up now.
But apparently, it's not the only factor. But speed kills.
So, if I'm understanding the wee fella correctly, he's saying his problem was the blanket speed limit restrictions. So the idea that the roads around a school at all times are 30 kilometers an hour.
Mm-hmm.
That the only times that they need to be 30 kilometers an hour are at the start of school and the end of school. Right?
Yeah.
Am I understanding that correctly?
I think so, yeah.
So you approach a school and you now have to think about what fucking time it is. Outside of that, if a kid's going home for lunch, or maybe playing in the school grounds after school, you can just fucking run them down.
Yeah,
That's
teacher only
fine.
day. Kids go home at lunchtime.
He's complicating something.
Yeah.
Which I think is something that should be probably avoided when it comes to road rules and that sort of thing. I have no problem with a 30k zone around a school at all times because kids play at school, you know, and the weekends and stuff. Like he's missing this. The National's whole thing when it comes to speed limits, I found really odd because they're talking about this road that they're building north of Auckland, take it after Whangarei. There's definitely a new road that needs to be built there. They're talking about lifting the speed limit on the nice piece of motorway just south of Christchurch as well. And they're talking about this unlocking productivity. Now, that motorway... That motorway south of Christchurch, I know quite well. They want to put it up to 120 Ks. It is a very nice piece of road. It will save people maybe 90 seconds. And then at 120 kilometers an hour, it will slam them straight into gridlock that always happens at the end of that road.
Yeah.
Now, I don't see how a 90-second speed time saving is going to unlock productivity in New Zealand. It just doesn't make any sense.
But worse than that, we can probably look it up. I don't have it to hand. They did someone worked it out going through all the school zones between Auckland and Wellington. And it was like to drive Auckland to Wellington, it was these single numbers, like less than 9 minutes saved for the whole trip from Auckland to Wellington. That's what it was. It was like the singular number of minutes. That's a 7.5, 8 hour drive.
We as a whole, I think, need to have a good hard look at each other and go, we are a nation of bad, impatient, dangerous drivers on a whole, and our roads are not up to snuff. You know, and it just seems to be like they're picking these piecemeal roads and going, yep, that could be 120 kilometers an hour. So New Zealanders drive at 120 to 130 kilometers an hour on a highway anyway, if you let them. So now they'll go even faster. It's I don't get the focus.
Yeah, let me throw this in there as well, because since you've just said that, this government is desperate for revenue because they've given away all the tax cuts and landlords. Them putting those speeds up to 120 will stop a heck of a lot of revenue for people doing 110. So then what? So they're actually, just a side note, wonder if they've run that past Nicola. She's pretty keen to get every kind of revenue she can.
The cops are all on foot patrols, though, in your local malls, so they're not going to be catching people.
All right.
Okay. I have. Oh, you got more to play on this? Because
there's more. You got
something that. Oh, I was going to put up a whole nother story about Simeon. So you play the video.
We'll finish the story.
Here today, the public had their say.
Well, I think it's wrong. For Taupo Road, for example, there have been less accidents since they lowered it.
There you
go. What about round the schools? The children.
Speed limits are not the big problem. It's the idiot drivers that create these problems, and those people are always going to.
Well, it's both. I mean, I agree. Idiot drivers. The first thing you should ever teach your kids when teaching them to drive is everyone else on the road is an idiot. Beware of everybody. But there was that little adage, you might have heard it before, Chewy. It's called speed kills. So there's an element of it,
Speed irrespective of what the limits are.
Some places.
Hang on. He just said irrespective of what the limits are. Cool. So let's make them 200. Irrespective. Do you really believe that? I don't think you really believe that.
Just do need to be at the 50, but to stay at 30 in some places is probably a good thing as well.
The Greens are hoping for a back down.
They campaigned on something that is unworkable and will make our streets less safe. But it's not too late to do the right thing.
But for the government, it's full speed ahead. Benedict.
Hey, see what we did there? Full speed ahead. I picked up what you're putting down. TVNZ. All right, Chewy. You wanted to say
just as far as let's acknowledge the very clear pattern with this government and Simeon Brown, ignoring advice.
Yeah,
Transport
Minister and the last national government. Remember, last week we pulled up something from the last national government, and the story was are ignoring official advice. It's a national party policy almost to ignore official advice.
His own officials wanted to give cabinet another month to decide to more. Considerations of options. Instead, he went with industry people that wanted weaker emission standards against all advice. National.
Ludicrous. All right, some super chats that have been coming in. Worming, Hari Te Wiki o Te Reo, Māori, Pat and Chewy. Yeah, Māori Language Week. I have to be honest with you. I'm not such a big fan of Māori Language Week because there's a part of me which kind of goes, it's pretty disrespectful that you can have a New Zealand Music Month and a Māori Language Week. I don't know why that. And when I say I'm kind of offended by it, not because I don't want to see the Māori language obviously thrive, but it feels like a token gesture. We'll do it for the week. I remember we had this conversation last year. I went through McDonald's drive-through and there was a Māori introduction. It's like, cool. I'm like, why does this have to go away? I said this last year. Why is this only in place now? Why can't that just be around all the time? I do feel it's a little bit of tokenism, but, I'm on board to obviously support the Māori language and see it grow. But, surely, come on, Kiwis, we can do better.
Māori Language Month is better.
Yeah.
MLM.
Yeah,
it's better than Māori Language Week. Just do it.
Tiffany says, Christina Luxury won't be interviewed by Jack. He's a faulty puppet that is terrible under pressure.
I saw the comments under the Q&A thing on Facebook. And it made my brain itchy because there's people that were just going, oh, no wonder he doesn't come on your lefty show. Mike Hoskins is a much better interviewer than Jack Tame. And I'm just like, tell me that you've never watched Q&A without saying it when you say that Jack Tame has a lefty bias. Yeah. I have seen him tear strips off and make people on both sides of the aisle look utterly foolish.
Cry. Both of them cry.
If you don't come correct to Q&A, you're getting wrecked.
No, completely agree. Gold says, thank you for your super chat, by the way. The problem here is that all these people that signed the letters are experts. This government has an allergic reaction to this sort of advice. Thank you for the super chat, and thank you for the $10 super chat, Tafari. Even without crashes, higher speeds cause more traffic jams. Higher speeds means more braking. More braking backs up traffic, taking people longer to reach their destination than driving slower. I feel a Mythbusters episode going on. I think they might have done this. They might have done this through the traffic of San Francisco, where they were trying to zip in and out versus just staying in the same line. And you're right. They ended up basically being the same time.
Thing. I believe on the motorways of Auckland, they use cameras to dynamically change the speed limit to smooth out those stop-start gaps.
Right. Bud says, Bud Cool Forward. This might be a first time from Bud, maybe. If it is, welcome. Haere mai. Thank you for the super chat. The council in Gore tore down an iconic pub for housing, but then stopped. Whole place left bare for 12 months so far. I wish the government would stop lying and open their bloody eyes. Don't know too much about the story there, but
well, I mean, that's something that is happening around the country. That there are sections that have been cleared for housing under the previous government. There were going to be housing projects going ahead, and they've all hit pause. Here in Dunedin, there was news about a development in Carroll Street. Now it's just an empty section, and it was going to be, I believe, 41 units.
Wow. Goodness gracious.
Here in Dunedin, we've got 350 people on a housing waiting list. And yeah, we'll just pause that. We've got the land, not going to use it.
Before 10 o'clock, I'm going to give you the biggest news story of today that nobody's covering. Well, how's that for like a radio tease? The biggest news story of the day that should be making many, many, many waves will be given to you before 10 o'clock and nobody's talking about it.
Ooh.
I know. I've done this once or twice before. Right. I tell you what we will do though is go and have a look, because one of the stories we're going to talk about tonight is, the government and all their plans and all their actions for, we're going to get tough on crime. Crime's going to come down. We're going to, Well, today the government admits they are at risk of missing their violent crime reduction targets. So we best go and check out what that is all about. And let's just say welcome to Stuff. We don't often use Stuff content, but thank you. Kia ora. Welcome to the show, Stuff. Thank you for continuing to contribute to Big Hairy News.
The government has released its first report card on its set of self-imposed targets, and it doesn't make for rosy reading. Statistics have gone backwards in more than half of the measures, but it's most evident in law and order. Senior political correspondent Jenna Lynch joins us now. Jenna, what's the government going to do about this?
Yeah, another crime crackdown was the antidote to the disastrous data today. Yesterday, Christopher Luxon was up in Auckland.
So hang on. Their pledge was a crime crackdown. That doesn't seem to be working. So the answer that they've given, according to Jenna Lynch, is we're going to do another crime crackdown. Hang on, maybe I'm missing something.
Heralding that crime had come down in the CBD, but all the while he was sitting on this latest data from the most recent crime victimisation survey, which showed a 30,000 increase in violent crime across the country. That is the exact opposite of the 20,000 reduction target that National has set itself in this area. It's explained.
You okay with that, Joey? You look like you're about to explode. You all right?
Oh, no, this is great. The system is proceeding as predicted.
So basically they said they'd reduced by about 20,000. They've increased by 30,000. But, party of law and order and all that bullshit.
Area. It's explained it away by saying that there is a lag
by saying that Labor bad.
In this data, and some of that reflected in this latest report dates back to July 2022, but it is this very same survey, this data that the government has decided to mark itself on. That very same survey ruled that there was no real statistical increase in violent crime between 2018 and 2023. It's very different data than National used to label Labor soft on crime when it was last in government, but it is.
Hang on, Jenna, are you saying that Nationals kind of cherry pick data to make Labor look bad? Really? I find that hard to believe, Chewy. That doesn't seem right. Well, they wouldn't do that. Surely they wouldn't do that.
Couldn't imagine it. Couldn't imagine.
rejecting any assertions that it is cherry-picked this survey for political purposes, calling that suggestion cynical.
I said to you there are 6-year targets in 2030. We're going to report on them every quarter. Sometimes they'll go backwards, sometimes they'll go forwards. But the bottom line is I'm interested in results and outcomes. I'm not interested in the petty politics of it. I want to get a different set of outcomes in this country. We cannot carry on the way that we're doing.
Notice again, and Chewy, I'm stealing your line there. He didn't say better outcomes. He said different outcomes, right? Just be aware. He said different outcomes. So much, much worse would still be fulfilling this criteria.
Bottom line is I'm interested in results and outcomes. I'm not interested in the petty politics of it. I want to get a different set of outcomes in this country. We cannot carry on the way that we're doing. We said we would turn the place around. That's what we're going to do. And it will be hard because we've got a massive trajectory of results going against us and momentum continuing to go the wrong way.
Now, in response to the numbers going the wrong way, the government today announced that it had taken its proposed changes to sentencing to Cabinet and will introduce them to the House this week. It includes things like capping the maximum discount that judges can apply to sentences for mitigation.
So again, experts, judges, people who have known the system for 10, 20, 30, 40 years, and this government's going to come in and go, we know better? Honestly.
Factors to 40% and stopping the use of repeat discounts for the likes of youth or remorse in sentencing. It's also added a couple of new aggravating factors to sentencing, one of which is adults who exploit children by aiding and abetting them to commit crimes. The other is for people who post their crimes online or live stream them. If that sounds familiar, it is because they're the last Labor government's changes to the Ram Raids bill, that same government that National called soft on crime.
Oh, Chewy, have at it, my friend. Have at it.
Hey, Pat, can you just bring up in that clip just Samantha, a picture of Samantha there?
I can do that.
This is very off topic, and I apologize. Okay,
yeah.
So I don't know that it's the neckline that has caught my interest.
Right.
Am I crazy that her neckline looked like the Wu-Tang logo?
That is very off topic.
That is very off topic. But
that is very.
I mean, Wu-Tang is forever. And that's all I've got for this fucking story, because I don't know whether Luxon has actually believed the shit that he's campaigned on, that for some reason National are going to come in and solve crime. Because again, it's never worked. It's never worked. A crime crackdown never works. You end up with a whole bunch of people in jail. You're spending money on that. You're spending money on enforcement. And then the criminals get more hardened. They go to crime university. They come out and they do more crime. And we end up with this cycle of criminals and their families and the kids doing more crime. It turbocharges crime. But it's good for the votes. It's not the problem. Crime is not the problem. It's a feature. It's a feature that keeps them in. Because there are people that read stories about crime and think that the only thing that is being harsh is the only thing that stops it. But it didn't stop crime when we had the death penalty. It didn't stop crime when we chucked people in dungeons. It doesn't fucking work. But what does work is having work for people to do and ways to make their life better. But that's too soft and namby-pamby and wishy-washy. And people want to punish.
Yeah.
They want people to suffer. As long as it's not them on the wrong end of the boot, they are fine with it and they will vote for it every time. And Luxon fucking knows it.
Yep. And mark our words, what they're going to do with crime is they're going to change how they count the stats. And then they're going to try and claim a victory. It'll happen. You heard it here first. Just wait and see. It'll happen. They will change it. They will change it all. I'm going to show you this other story now. And the reason I'm going to show it to you now is it came from the same press conference. Right, this is a stand-up. I think this is after post-cabinet meetings, I think. Now, Chewy, I've already put this out on Twitter, so if people have seen it, you'll know what I'm about to say. I haven't showed you the footage. In fact, I put this on Twitter today, and someone challenged me to cite a source for what I'd quoted. Yeah, this is the source. General picture. Thinking about the world, do you think that we should be more concerned about gangs, localized, or terrorism? Or at least not even what should be more concerned about? Should we have a concern for both?
Absolutely.
What would you say? What would you say if a cabinet minister said that they would rather a gang member be held to a higher account than a potential terrorist?
What?
Would that be strange?
What?
Okay. So this is in the middle of this conversation. Paul Goldsmith gets asked about entering people's houses who are wearing Nazi memorabilia to search for more Nazi memorabilia, and would he be comfortable with that? And it's a particularly interesting question, saying that's exactly what they've just done with gangs.
Minister, what is the logic there to not prosecute people with symbols of hate, swastikas or other, terrorist stuff, and then go after the mongrel mob? Why not go for both if they're both causing harm?
Well, we're focused here on this legislation on gang insignia, and I think there's no question across society of the negative impact of gangs on our communities. People are fed up with them. They're fed up with the 50% increase in gang membership.
So let's just pause, and I'm not going to hold too long. So he's saying we're aware of the concerns and the dangers around gangs in New Zealand. Do you think we should be aware of the concerns? They've used swastika as an example, like of white supremacy. So should we be concerned about that? Are there aspects of community New Zealand that are suffering ill effects of that? I would say yes. So this government's now being asked, that group there that are causing harm to parts of community, and then another group which are causing harms to parts of community, why wouldn't you treat them both the same? We'll just get to the answer now.
They're fed up with the 50% increase in gang membership over the last 6 years and the mayhem they're causing in our community. And that's why we're giving the police the extra tools they need to deal with gang people in our communities. And this is part of it. It's also around non-consorting orders and dispersal orders and making an aggravating factor. It's all part of a package to give the police the extra tools that they need. And we're very determined.
He is talk. This would be probably the definition of a word salad. If you don't realize he hasn't actually answered the question, hasn't answered the question about hate symbols and terrorism. He's just talking about gangs. This would be a non-answer, in case anyone was wondering.
To make it work.
Right. Is gangs worse than terrorism?
Well, that's a silly question.
No, it's not, because you're not banning the use of terrorist symbols. So, and you're banning the use of gang patches. So, in your mind, and you've just defended that by saying that gangs cause harm. In your mind, do gangs cause more harm than terrorists?
Well, we're not having a debate about that broader issue at the moment. We're focused on gang membership, and that's what we're focused on here, and that's what we're doing.
Someone get rocking into Parliament wearing a swastika, and someone get rocking into Parliament wearing a swastika on their coat or whatever, would you be comfortable with police having powers to go into their home and find any other swastikas?
I wouldn't be comfortable with it, but that's for police to deal with. But what I'm focused at the moment on is the gang insignia.
Let's do that with a gang member.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be comfortable with them going into someone's home to find a swastika?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the gang insignia, and that's the legislation that we're on here at the moment. And what we're bringing before government, what we're going to be passing this week, is a tough piece of legislation that's focused on dealing with the scourge that gangs create in our communities.
Whilst we're ignoring the scourge that not white supremacy and terrorist cells and that kind of stuff, just so we're clear, he was asked, in case you missed it on the audio podcast, would you be comfortable if someone kept rocking up to Parliament with Nazi symbolism, swastikas, would you be comfortable with the police going into that person's house to see if they can locate more Nazi symbolism? And he said, I would not be comfortable with that. So
that's such a gimme, considering the mongrel mob used Nazi imagery.
It's a good point.
It's such a gimme, and he fumbled it.
Just the lack of foresight by this government to actually go, hey, what happens when we should talk through all these ideas about other symbols? Okay, Al Qaeda. Let's pick just a random other one. Swastikas, the National Front. Any of these things that cause harm in society, will cause harm in society. They're like, oh, yeah, I'd be uncomfortable if we squashed their human rights. Gangs, nah, fuck them. Let's do them. No problems. Do we see how we've been talking about this government having their knee on the neck of Indigenous New Zealanders, the knee on the neck of Maori, and trying to squash the most vulnerable? Now, I'm not defending gangs. Gangs cause a lot of issues, but the gangs we have in New Zealand at the moment, made up of a lot of Indigenous New Zealanders, are there for a reason, have come from a place thanks to a previous government and society that treated them in a certain way, right? So we're gonna put our knee on their neck again. But anything else that might be imported symbolism, imported, violence and ideologies or iconographies of violence, yeah, that's just freedom of speech, Chewy. That's just freedom of speech.
Mm. Let's just recap this whole gang patch thing.
Okay.
At no point have they defined what a gang patch is. They haven't put out a list of what insignia that they're talking about. They haven't described the components that make up a gang patch at all. They've just left it wide open, unless I've completely missed it, which I don't think I have. They haven't told us what that is. Every time they're talking about the gangs, they've talked about the mongrel mob almost exclusively. They haven't talked about many of the other gangs in New Zealand. Or they might have said, Black Power, Killer Bees, those sort of ones. But there are many, many more gangs in New Zealand, and they don't tend to talk about them.
Mm.
This was also the opportunity to do something. Admittedly, I would say that this was crazy, but to class gangs as a terrorist organization. Like there's so many ways that they could have gone with this, and they didn't do any of it. They just fell into a big open pit of, I don't think you want to say this, but you're going to keep going. You have said to a reporter, Nazis are fine, gangs different, gangs worse.
Nazis are fine being Nazis.
You can cover your house in ISIS flags. You can make your living room look like Herman Goering's bloody parlor. Absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But God help you if you have a mongrel mob patch hanging on a chair in your kitchen where someone can see it from the street. That seems fucked to me, and it seems to be a bad position to try making laws from. Like, it's just bizarre. I still don't think, like, there are states over in Australia where they have banned the display of the swastika.
Yeah.
Let's be clear, not all swastikas, just the Nazi one, which is very clearly you could define it. New Zealand, we haven't done that. You can put a flagpole up in your front lawn tomorrow and flying the Nazi flag, and your neighbors won't be happy, but not against the law.
And just to wrap this up, just so you can see, I'll show you the lovely conversation. This is what I put online today. Paul Goldsmith just said he wouldn't be comfortable police going into someone's home who was wearing a swastika to look for other swastikas, but it's fine to go into someone's home wearing a house wearing a gang patch, looking for other gang patches. Unbelievable. Gaz says, do you have a source for this? I said, Paul Goldsmith is my source. Good enough.
I love these guys. I love these reply guys. Charge in, head first.
I'm only asking because your honesty is questionable. So, of course, you always challenge that. Name one thing I've ever been dishonest about. Remembering that opinions can differ.
Gone.
What have I ever actively lied about? No response to that one. It's kind of weird, eh? No response at all.
No.
I don't participate much on Twitter after I post things, but when I do, I love it. When I do, I really do. All right. Chewy, I've got one for you here. Someone sent this in. This is for you. And someone asked where you were on the weekend. They wanted to know because they thought that you might have been at this boxing match, standing in the background holding the flag.
Oh, very good.
They were wondering if you maybe were doing something over the
that's
weekend.
Amazing.
Were you around? Where were you?
In the weekend, no, I'm afraid that isn't me. God, I
Brother?
wish it was.
Cousin?
Maybe a distant relative.
Long lost?
Oh, that's phenomenal. If you have the chance to be in the background of a camera shot, you'd go hundies. You'd do so. I love behind the camera shenanigans.
Shenanigans. All right. Hey, let's jump into the last topic of the night. I was actually going to do like 3 or 4 clips from breakfast this morning. What I've decided to do is play the actual story from One News Tonight, and then maybe I'll play one of the clips from breakfast this morning because it covers it off quite nicely. And this is all about fast tracking the mathematics curriculum. And is that what we're talking about? No, I was wrong. Sorry. It is about that, but it's also about, I'll start this again, shall I? It is, the last story of tonight is going to be about the fast tracking of the mathematics curriculum, but also Erica Stanford was on breakfast this morning talking about how to replace the lacking we have with teachers. We don't have enough teachers. Schools are planning to send kids home and like roster kids off so they can actually have enough teachers for the children. So they've come up with a plan, and their plan is getting ex-teachers, retired teachers who are qualified but not registered, experts in their field to come in and sort of fill in whilst they shore it up. And on one level, you kind of go, well, I could see how if they were a babysitter role and they were just sitting there whilst, like, I mean, I know friends who have they've been in charge of exams. Like, so 5th form or year 11, they go and they sit their final year exams, and you don't have to be a teacher to be in there and keeping an eye on them. So if it's that kind of vibe of they've got their own work, they can get on with it, and you're in there, that seems okay. But the PBTA does have some concerns. And of course, the government thinks that this is the best thing since sliced bread. So there's 2 things here. There's teachers being brought back into the education system, and there's also the fast tracking of the mathematics curriculum. That's what we're looking at.
The Education Minister says the alternative's not worth it as she responds to criticism following moves to ditch some checks and balances for relief teachers. The government's changing the rules to allow unregistered former teachers to fill in to help meet growing demand, and that's dividing education leaders, as Sam Ollie reports.
When there's no relief in sight, schools have to take extreme measures.
So either the class gets bigger because you double up. So where there was one teacher in front of 26, you get one teacher in front of 52. Or you start doing things like rostering home and saying to people, hey, look, this afternoon there's no year 13s with us because we just can't cover classes.
The government says one answer to the problem is unregistered relievers, like former teachers or subject experts.
We will pay your registration fees. We're literally going to pick up the phone to all of them, say, hey, please come back. It's going to be a lot easier.
There are more than 3,500 secondary school relief teachers. Last year, 99,000 shifts needed to be covered in the first 2 terms. But this year, there have been more than 120,000.
So what is that? 40 days per relief teacher, is that right? 3 times 4 days, 120? That's a lot. So if a term is 10 weeks, 10 5s are 50, that means basically a reliever can get a job, have work 8 days out of 10. So yeah, all right. So there's the need. That's if it's these guys, and obviously want to grow that pool.
Part of the reason, an almost 25% increase in staff sick days. But making it easier to fill the gaps is causing its own concerns.
This is just, again, another knee-jerk reaction.
Educators worried people who might fail a teacher refresher course could now be allowed in.
They're often disorganised, not able to build relationships with students, perhaps don't have good enough literacy, and who we do not believe are safe and competent in the classroom. And it is a really small proportion.
Our young people deserve better. What we need is a long-term workforce strategy that we don't have in the education system. Health has got it, we don't have it for education.
But the minister says the experience of former teachers shouldn't be underestimated.
You don't forget how to teach, and it's better than
That's a really stupid thing to say. No offense,
so
Erica,
dumb.
Because
That's
it's not
so
that
dumb.
it's not that you forget how to teach. It's that, do you think someone who taught in the 1980s could come back into a classroom today and still teach in the same way? You know, things have changed. It might not be forgetting how to teach. It's the relearning how to do it in 2024. Look, it's only got 10 seconds to go, but it's one of these things that doesn't sound terrible from the outset, but the proof of the pudding will be in the eating. If all of a sudden a whole bunch of unregistered, unsuitable people can now just see an income who wouldn't get work if they had to go through the proper channels, that's a concern. However, there's also being gracious towards this government. This is not an issue that they have created. This is a systemic issue that's gone back probably, to Helen Clark's, just slowly changing. So it's a problem that needs to be solved, which I think is why the PBTA is saying we need a long-term look at this, but I guess there has to be a what do you call it? A stopgap measure and a long-term thing. And it sounds like they're throwing all their eggs into the stopgap measure and they're not having anything with the longer term. This has just got 14 seconds. We'll just play it and then we'll chat.
bring kids home, because that's the alternative if I do nothing.
They're not going to be anything but a little bit rusty, and so any support we can get will be gratefully received.
Relief in the short term, but plenty still to do for the years ahead. Sam Ollie, One News.
There you go. Yeah, Chewie, I've had a bit of a crack at it. Your turn, mate.
Classic National once again. Short-term band-aid solution, no talk of the long-term option. They need to train and retain more teachers.
Yeah.
And we've spoken about this at length on the show, that there seems to be a problem retaining teachers for longer than 5 years because their pay and conditions suck. And every time that there's change in government, the curriculum gets thrown out the fucking window and teachers are asked to do the impossible with even less. So national solution is to bring in rusty, old, unqualified teachers and expect students to up their results, because that's a Christopher Luxon's laser focused on this, laser focused on the fact that our school kids suck. They're terrible at everything, and the solution is apparently barely trained and qualified relievers.
Well,
we won't have a discussion about retaining the people that we train.
I'm just going to
thing again.
I'm going to be fair here. It doesn't necessarily mean unqualified and whatever you said teachers, because it could be someone who was 66 who retired last year. You know, they're the people that they're also talking. It might have an aspect. This is what I'm saying. The devil's in the detail, right? It might be a bunch of 70-year-old teachers that have been working for the past 30 or 40 years who have just retired, and they bring them back for a good paycheck. It could also be the person who couldn't get registered because they were shithouse. That's the detail. That's what we have to see. That's what we have to find out.
The other thing Brendan has reminded me here, good comment, Brendan. This is a good move by the government for the short term. Yes, it doesn't fix the problem, but at least we can take a sick day without affecting the whole wider school negatively. And yes, you've shone a light on something that I wouldn't have thought of. There's the other side of it, and that is the teachers that are spread thin.
But let me put one other thing out there as well. This is the thing. I know it sounds a bit boring sometimes if we say the same old thing about these details. These issues, when we see the details, that's when we'll know. Because also, as Michelle pointed out, she didn't mention police checks. Now, I'm assuming that's a part of it. But when you we're going to get onto fast tracking of maths. When you fast track a plan, if it doesn't go through the correct steps to get somewhere, what's going to be missed? Again, devil is in the detail. I think I've already said in this conversation, it seems like a stopgap. Right, they need a stopgap, but if it's done well, and they've got a finite time whilst they bring another 3,000 teachers through. I mean, the other way to do it is to do what Australia's doing. up the pay and advertise internationally to come and teach in beautiful New Zealand. But they won't go down that path.
It's not an isolated problem. In fact, it's scarily similar to something that we see in core professions. We see it in teaching, we see it in nursing, we see it in GPs, we see it in police. All of these roles, all of these professions, we're having trouble training and retaining.
Yeah.
So something systemically is wrong. And I think whenever you're talking about satisfaction in a job and people staying in a job for a long period of time and that sort of thing, it's pay and conditions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we have a problem that we need to solve, and the solution is money. And we have the solution is we have rich people that aren't pulling their weight. But for some reason, there's just a blind spot.
Well,
that these successive governments just don't see these people. Maybe it's because their pile of hoarded gold is too bright and shiny and the sun's shining and I just can't see them, so we'll just ignore them.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just stupid.
I don't know if they can't see it, Chewy. It might be that they choose not to see it. That would be the other side of that.
They should be able to see them. They're probably having donor dinners with them.
This is the other part of the conversation, which One News didn't really talk about. They had a chat this morning about fast tracking the curriculum. And there seems to be a disconnect here between what Daniel Faitau was asking her and what she answers. And the reason I'm giving her a little bit of grace for this is, if it is a disconnect, it was Faitau's job to drill down into it, because he's talking about fast tracking and she's saying this curriculum's been around since last year. But I think the point for the fast tracking is you're giving teachers 4 months to get ready for this. The curriculums are out, the details are out later this month, and then it's going to be taught next year. So the fast tracking is getting it through quickly and having no lead-in time. She's talking about it's been around for 12, 18 months. He's basically saying you're only giving them 4 months. That seems to be the disconnect in this conversation. So let's have a bit of a listen to it.
There's a difference between pace and rush. We're not rushing this. I've been thinking about this
4
for
months.
years.
4 months.
It's much longer.
Teachers have to get ready for
it's much longer than 4 months. We've been working.
Yeah, so she's saying we've been working on this forever, and he's saying that you're expecting teachers to be ready in 4 months. So they walk past each other, which was a bit of a shame.
The previous government, to their credit as well, have been working on this curriculum for years. The whole sector have developed what is now a world-leading, knowledge-rich, year-by-year curriculum that doesn't leave anything to chance. I have it in the palm of my hand. It's ready to go. I am now also, on top of that, saying to teachers next year, we are going to fully resource you with curriculum-aligned, high-quality teacher guidebooks, which right down to the level of a lesson.
It does sound a bit like paint by numbers for teaching. I mean, I'm not saying that as a criticism, I'm just saying that as an observation. She's about to say, we're going to even give you lessons to teach. It sounds like, teaching paint by numbers.
Teacher guidebooks, which right down to the level of a lesson plan, all of the resources you need to teach this in your hand. I have these things in my hands.
And
now the unions,
who will teach
but here's the thing, right? The unions want me to delay for another how long? 1 year, 2 year, 3 years? We know the trajectory of those kids if we don't bring this in.
And she's unfortunately not going to say because of national standards that was brought in by John Key in 2011. That's how we know where these kids are going to end up. She's just talking about the 15-year-olds.
Because 45% of our 14 and 15-year-olds are passing our NCEA numeracy co-requisite. It is grim. Every statistic you look at is grim. And I am not prepared to...
I love the part where she said that she has these resources in her hand while demonstrating her completely empty hand.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird way to say it, wasn't it?
That's weird.
It was a bit of a strange way to put it out there. But, look, the other thing that's about to happen as I re-find our spot, which was about there, there's this idea that she puts out there, we just have to get started. We're just going to start. We have to just start. And I thought about it as she was saying it. And I thought, imagine other things we do if we didn't go into it with a proper plan, if we just started. I'm watching 1883 and 1923 at the moment, and I was thinking about those people going across the prairie. if they just started, didn't have a plan, didn't know where they were going, who knows where they would have ended up. It's a bit of luck if they do. This whole kind of just, and look, I'll keep playing because she's about to say, just start, just get starting. And I just was like, nah. So you're doing paint by numbers and you just want them to get going, even if they're not ready. I don't want to also say necessarily what the PPTA wants is to wait for another 12 months, but I'm sorry to say it again, but maybe the devil is in the detail. Maybe we need a compromise. Maybe we need to run all these teachers through this in the first term and start it up mid-year or something. I don't know, but just start. It sounds like a way to build a really shitty house. No plans, just start.
The statistic you look at is grim, and I am not prepared to look parents in the eye who know that their kids aren't doing well. All of the secondary school principals who tell me that the kids who are starting secondary school are 2 years behind in maths. I'm not prepared to look them in the eye and say, I've got all the resources because I have got tens of millions of dollars reprioritized. I've got a brand new curriculum developed by the sector in the palm of my hand. And you want me to do what? Wait, for what? All I've said to schools who are a bit worried about having to do 2 new curricula next year, just get started. We don't expect perfect on day one.
Don't you think
just
that's
make
easier
a start.
said than done? Here's what Mark Potter said. He said, you're grinning.
You're going to the unions, of course.
Well,
you should go to some principals and teachers who actually back this and see what they say.
Well, the Education Institute president, Mark Potter, said it's just unreasonable for the minister to expect teachers to do 2 curriculums at once, as well as doing it in a short time frame. It is unreasonable for teachers to have to do this on top of complex demands when they still have around learning needs that are yet to be resourced by your government.
As I say, firstly, we're fully resourcing teachers with something they've never had before. I've seen this in schools. I've seen the providers.
And I heard you say that's in the little wee book in your hand, but who will teach them? Who will teach the teachers?
But this is, they're going to have a teacher guide. They're going to have all of the resources they need. They're going to have professional learning and development.
Yeah, you're going to do it. You'll give them a book, and then they just need to read that in 4 months' time.
Professional learning and development. All they need to do is get started. Here's the thing, right?
Yeah, again, that just get started thing. This has got about 60 seconds through, but do you want to do something on the chip in there for a sec?
This is terrible advice. This is not how you do a plan. This is not how you roll out a dramatic change. This completely ignores the problem that many have pointed out that is holding New Zealand students back, and that's having experienced teachers that are happy in their paying conditions and having enough teachers so you can have smaller class sizes.
Yeah, there is one of
those are the solutions.
We're not playing this clip tonight now because we've done it in a different way. But the last clip we were going to play from here was a conversation around taking the teaching community with you. You need to bring these teachers along as well on the journey, rather than just basically handing them a new book and go paint by numbers, read everything that's inside there, do what it says, and start tomorrow, please. That's the vibe.
We've got teachers in the chat tonight. When you see Erica Stanford's paint by numbers how to teach guidebook, can you let one of us know so we can see it? I want to see how demeaning it is.
Well, they do say at the end of this thing, those resources are going out at the end of this month. So by the end of this month, we will be seeing it. All right, let's give her last 55 seconds.
The silent majority of principals and teachers out there have been calling for this. They're excited about it. And what we want, they said to me, because I spoke to a principal last night who said to me, it is insulting that the unions, who are, professional organisation who just, oppose everything I do.
They're the ones who want what's best for the teachers and the students, those terrible people.
Let's just put that out there, are going to deny those principals and those teachers all of those resources, that amazing curriculum that will make their life easier. They won't be searching online every night for resources and having to photocopy them the next day because we will be providing it. They will deny all of those schools who are ready for this because of their, political affiliations. Well, actually, I'm not prepared to say, no, I'm sorry, I've got all these amazing things, but you can't have them just yet. Right. Meanwhile, 60,000 kids start school next year, and the trajectory they will be on is to that 45% of kids passing that numeracy test if I do nothing.
It just makes me a bit nervous, even this whole idea of, people used to criticize Jacinda Ardern on that whole single source of truth stuff. Well, isn't that what she's saying? She's saying all you need is what we've got. We are the single source of truth for maths. She's actually saying you're not going to have to spend any time being up late at night researching anything. We'll give you everything. You have one booklet and you'll be able to teach from it and you'll have everything you need. Now, I mean, I'm not saying it's not going to work or it's bad, but I'm just like, Yeah, if it seems too good to be true, I just say warnings. Warnings, Stewie.
I'm going to say that it's not going to work and it's going to be bad. I think it's insulting, personally, that the only thing that is stopping teachers from achieving is the lack of Erica Stanford's guidebook. It just sounds like she's just disregarding all the training and experience that these guys have. And like this comes under, I talked about two issues that are important for teachers, right? Pay and conditions. This definitely comes under conditions.
Yeah.
Like if you don't think the people that are setting your work life up are going to treat you with respect and knowledge and courtesy, then the conditions are bad, man. And I want to also acknowledge Erica's couple of catty swipes at the organization that is purely set up to represent teachers as a unified group
and the children they
as
teach.
Powerful as the government.
And the children they teach. Remember that they represent the teachers to give the teachers the best chance for the children they teach as well.
It is. I mean, I'm used to Seymour sniping at the unions, but this is bad. Like if this is going to be a sign of what's to come, that we're going to start writing off any feedback or criticism of what the government's doing. If it's coming from a union organization, then we're automatically going to disregard it because all they do is whinge about what I want to do.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what, are you expecting individual teachers to text you, email you? What, are you going to respond to them individually? Like, you're quite happy to talk to lobby groups who are there to represent the points of views of those particular businesses, corporations, and interests. Here's the thing. A teachers' union's a lobby group for teachers. Just remember that they're a lobby group. Just give them a swipe card. Let them take you out to dinner. It's just the same.
I've got another little clip for you, and I've had a lot of these tonight, but I had a busy weekend online. Because this can already be solved. We could just ask Christopher Luxon, because we all remember, Christopher Luxon is going to be one of the most transparent Prime Ministers ever.
Do you promise to be a transparent and accountable Prime Minister for New Zealand?
I'm going to be very much so, yes.
An accountability promise, but he couldn't promise much else.
We've made a very big commitment to deliver tax relief for lower middle income New Zealanders, and that will happen.
Some of the promises you heard in this campaign won't be worth confetti.
Both David Seymour and Winston Peters have put questions across your tax plan. Are you worried? Do you promise to be?
That's what he meant by transparent. Just
what he runs away.
Look, transparent. Like
I don't.
Turning up on
not,
Q&A.
I'm not going to be a. I'm not going to be someone who just always poo-poos it. I mean, we haven't done that here, but warning signs, warning bells, warning signs with this. Even the whole, don't worry about doing work anymore. Just let us tell you what to do and how to do it exactly, and teach the kids that way. And just remember, I saw someone in the chat say that they were in the world of teaching when national standards came out. I wrote a piece about national standards at the PPTA, I think it was, actually put on their blogs about what, and they were all saying then what was going to happen. And what you'll find now, if there'll be a sector of teachers who are talking about this, and keep your ear to the ground, they'll tell you what's going to happen, and it'll be what happens. Because remember, teachers teach because they love teaching. No one does everyone seems to think it's a fantastic thing. They get like 10 or 12 weeks a year with no school kids. And it's the conditions and the pay, as Chewy always says, aren't there to make it a really attractive thing for lots and lots and lots and lots of people, or else everyone would be doing it. There wouldn't be a shortage if it was. So they teach because they love to teach and they like kids, right? So when you're talking about the people and to the people who are doing it because that's what they want to do, that's what they're experts in, that's what they're trained to do, it's a good idea to listen to them. At the moment, it seems like Erica Stanford is saying, listen to me, listen to us. We've got the answer. When those documents come out, and I'm pretty sure she said it in part of that conversation at the end of this month, then listen to the teachers. Even if you don't want to listen to the PPTA or the NZI, is that right? Listen to the teachers, see what they've got to say about it. They're the ones who will know. They'll be able to read through it and say, this is what's going to happen. And they're normally right. They're normally right.
Here's my wee pro tip. If you're sitting at home and you're not a teacher and you're going, man, I'm being stabbed. I feel like I need to be stabbed. Approach a teacher and comment that they must have a really cruisy life because they're 9 till 3 and they get all the school holidays and stuff, and that must be neat. You will be stabbed so quick.
Yeah. I will just put out there that Chewy's joking right now because we've just been selling the teachers as this fantastic group of people. And now Chewy's selling them as a murderous stab-a-lot group.
No, they are a wonderful group of people, but they're under a lot of pressure in their job, and they have access. Well, for primary school, I think all teachers have access to scissors, so they could be. I'm just saying, just watch yourself. Be careful.
So far, Chewy, what have you done tonight? You've wished for more wars, and for teachers to stab people with their scissors.
Pat, I hate it when you use my own words against me.
If only Luxon would say that. From Tiffany, I'm Māori, and I think National Act in New Zealand first as funded gangs of vandals. Mr. Arvid says, I'm Pākehā, and I agree. National Act in New Zealand first are funded gangs of vandals. Peter says, similarly, the ODT reported today not enough people are applying on the rural track to train as GPs. The health system under this government is that bad. And especially because many people might not know this, but that rural track to train actually gives advantages to a sector of society, Chewy, over others. Did you know that? And, we know this government hates that when it comes to race. But when it comes to rural and you get some extra advantage to be trained, that seems to be fine. This is probably the comment of the night. Kiwi Bird. That's if you've watched the debate last week with old Winky Mick Donald a lot. The National Party has concepts of a plan. Very good. Yeah, look, see, they know. The answer is always violence, Chewy. The answer is always
not encouraging it, but it
warmonger, bringer of beards. Bringer of beards sounds like something out of what was that show with the Mother of Dragons? Game of Thrones.
Oh, Game of Thrones.
Bringer of beards.
Chewy, first of his name.
All right, team. You got anything else you want to chuck in there?
Yeah, I do, because you've had a very angry show and everybody's said that teachers are going to murder us all. And
there's only one person here who's been angry tonight.
Yeah, it's me. It's always me. It's always me. I've got a little moment of zen because we can't have a show where we're all
John Stewart,
angry and all het up.
Let's have your moment of zen, John Stewart.
I'm stealing it from an Emmy Award winner. It's okay. As many of you know, we're based out of Dunedin. Dunedin is a wonderful place. This is my little wee moment of zen from the weekend. We took.
I saw these on Facebook. Where are you? Is it Aramoana? Where are you? Tomahawk? Where are you? Oh, look at that. Cute little thing. There's a really, Chewy's obviously having trouble. There's this really cute spot. I might actually go out there this weekend. There's this really cute spot that's not a reserve, not anything. There's a rural road that goes out the peninsula. And if you stop on a certain corner, like on the corner of the road, there is a water pipe just on the other side of it. And the seals go there and they have their pups there. And then that becomes a nursery. And there's always this pool literally right beside the road that's always got like 5 or 6 or 7 pups in it and one mum looking after them all. It's adorable.
Yeah, I just absolutely love this. I never get sick of seeing the sea lions around because it's only been within, I think, the last 30 or 40 years that sea lions have been breeding on the mainland here.
Oh, nice.
And I've had a few people go, well, how do you tell a seal apart from a sea lion? You'll know as soon as you see them. Sea lions are way bigger than seals. These are sea lions.
They're butty. Much bigger.
My little dog wanted to go and make friends, and she was on very much a short lead.
Oh yeah, the lead on her.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, that's how close. Like if you leave them alone and you leave them access to the sea, they're just chill as. And this is why I'm like, I always have my lead with, like, even if it's on the beach, my dog's got good recall. Always have my lead there.
My turn. This is not from now, but I'll show you what I was just talking about. This is this pipe. It's literally, we're standing on the road, and there's a whole bunch of babies.
Hoopers?
Yeah, it's out that way. Hoopers Inlet. Yeah. And they just all chill. And there was probably like 8 or 10 of them in there. And then they're also up on the beaches and stuff like that as well. And they just, there's mum. There's one mum, and I don't know how many pictures I put in here, but there was probably 4 or 5 babies. Oh, look at that. Dates it, doesn't it? Just hanging out, and they hang out in this pond here, and this is the nursery. It's very, very cool. Hey, I'm going to read something because I've just got, I'm not going to say, oh gosh, we can't do that, can we? Oh, gosh.
Just almost dock someone there.
I'll just read this out as anonymous. This has come from a school to parents. I'm assuming this is principal. Principal says, is sharing with you a statement from the National President of the New Zealand Principals Federation regarding the proposed changes in the New Zealand curriculum. If you would like to know more about these curriculum changes or discuss the NZPF statement, you are invited to contact the principal. And I guess there's a email. Look, actually, this is really long. What I will do is I will go and digest that, and maybe we'll have a look at it tomorrow night and see what the story is. Oh, look, there's my, see, look, this is the little fella has come right up to us, see? So we're standing on the road. That was the end of it. And it comes right across, and yeah, Hooper's in there, that was right. So, all right, team. Anything else that we need to get to in this? Oh gosh, there are. Oh, we've done all those. I've done all those, haven't I? National Party.
One big politics story we haven't spoken about for the weekend.
Let me do this first. Peter, also the Hoi-Ho got Bird of the Year.
Excellent. I like the Hoi-Ho.
I think
it's a Targo bird.
I think I saw on One News tonight that there was like 60,000 votes this year compared to 700,000 last year because of
John Oliver didn't stick his beak into it.
That's a good little secret. Eh? Not many people know about this. Just a little corner of a road, little nursery. All right, team. Look, there you go. It's coming to say hello. So there's actually a barrier there as well. So we're above it, but we're not near it. See? Hello, mate. How you doing? Doing well? Good on you, mate.
Got any fish, bruv? Got any fish?
For you, bruv. All right, guys. I think we're done for the night. Good show, actually. Lots of stuff tonight. What was this? What was Pat's story? Did I have a story to tell? Oh, yeah. What was Pat's story? If you're asking me what was the story that I was going to be like, this is the biggest news, that was the Paul Goldsmith bit. Saying he'd be uncomfortable going and finding Nazi memorabilia in someone's home, but he'd be fine with. I actually think it's a really big story. I really think what he said should have made more waves than it hasn't. So I'm sorry if I didn't make
it's a great headline. Paul Goldsmith, pro-neo-Nazi.
All right, guys. Hey, we'll catch you tomorrow night. Oh gosh, actually we've got an outro, haven't we? And we've got to play the outro because, oh gosh, that's not the right outro. Gosh, look at me. See what happens when we get in here late? I've got to bring that one up there because that's got all the new names in it of the lovely people who have become patrons in the last week or so. And also people who have, oh, now I've got to move it and I've got to find it, man.
Remember, if you join Patreon, you make Pat's job harder because he's got to redo the crawl all the time.
Yeah, and and like what's getting even harder, which is a good thing, Chewy, is I've got some static images here and some crawls. The static images are getting full up, which is lovely. But yeah, I might have to turn everyone into a crawl. This is what I mean.
Help us settle a debate, whether it be thoughtful or funny.
See how that screen's completely full? So much so that Annex and Gold are on the same line. That's all full, that page.
Even if we're all creatures of hate, it's a fine line that we're walking together. For better, push aside the...
That one too, because Free Soul just joined in. I think Lurchy as well. So look, got Colton SB on the same line, all filled up. Gosh, difficult. My Mondays.
And I'm certainly not
difficult.
saying you need to make Pat's job easier. Keep making it harder. We enjoy it.
Sheesh.
Temptation to berate. Let's take a note of the corners we stand in. As many points as the hairs on my chinny chin chin. When the news that we're watching is hairy, knowing all the things that we need to be wary of. Like the rich have the hand out for rewards, while the many have to work out what they can afford. And the rest of us ain't paying attention, or maybe have questions we're too worried to mention. Other media is still dwelling on trivial facts, vetting bees from the rice and the mice from the rats, and picking and choosing a war path to run, linking ourselves with the hill to die on. It's gotta come down to a welcoming vibe, with an A and a self and a higher mind. All have a lean either this way or that, and will be analyzed by both Chewie and Pat. With the evil in the world trying to mess with your head, and you're sitting on the couch, you're thinking chivalry's dead. Each night, 2 nights, they're gonna sing you to bed. It's Big Hairy News.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us tonight. We'll be back with you tomorrow night from 9 p.m. For another edition of Big Hairy News. Big Hairy Chewy, anything to wrap up with?
No, nothing else for me. I've done my tangents for this evening. Thank you all, folks, and a big shout out to those from r/NZ Politics on Reddit. We're posting up videos there now as well. If that's your first time watching us tonight, hope we did good.
Cool, man. Brilliant. Perfect. All right, team. Thanks for joining us tonight. See you tomorrow from 9. Hooroo.
Cheers, man. Mate wa.